In this video, we're going to model a part. So at the end, you'll have something that looks something like this, and I'll walk you through every single step. So when you open up Solidworks, you're probably going to get a screen that looks like this. I know there's a lot going on. What I want you to do is just exit that screen. You'll never really need it. The way you open a new part in Solidworks is by going up to this little sheet of paper, click it, and it's going to bring you either to this screen or this screen. Okay, so typically I want you to be in the advanced screen. So this is how we go back and forth. So just stay in this advanced screen. Eventually we will get templates. For now, you'll just be working in this tutorial tab. So there's three different things we can do here: a part, an assembly, or a drawing. For the first couple weeks, we're just going to be making parts. So I'm going to double click on part here, and it's going to open up a window. The first thing I want you to do, this over here, SolidWorks resources, takes up a bunch of room. So just grab the left side of it and move it over. We'll basically never use that. Now, this window right here is your part. You can have more than one part going on at a time. So I could be working on two parts at the same time and then minimize them, and they'll both live down here. For what I want you to do now is go right here to maximize, and that makes one part take up the whole screen. This is normally how you want to work. The next thing I want you to do, there's a whole bunch of tabs right here at the top. So features and sketch are the only ones we're going to use basically for the first 10 weeks. These other ones are just a place to get lost when you're learning how to use SolidWorks. So what happens is you don't know how to do something and you're going to go through all these tabs looking for the solution. What I want you to do is right click on any of these tabs. It doesn't matter which one where I click. We're going to scroll down here to tabs, scroll down here, and just uncheck all of them except features and sketch. This will make things easier for you because you basically only have two choices of places to look. And I'm going to move this back over. Now, what we want to do here is get comfortable with our working area. The first thing I'm going to do is go to this little eyeball right here and the arrow next to it. So I'm going to click this arrow, and this lets us show or hide things. For now, I want to show all the primary planes. So we've got a front, top, and right plane. If you notice, they turn orange when I've got them selected. If I click one, it corresponds to them over here. You can think of these as your datum plane. So if you remember a datum reference frame, it's three mutually perpendicular planes. You're essentially building the part in SolidWorks on your datum reference frame. So when we go to make drawings, it should all tie in together. Now, over here, this is pretty important. This is our feature tree. Of course, we don't have any features or sketches yet, but they're going to show up here in the order that you make them. All we have now are our planes and an origin. If you recall from print reading, all of your dimensions need to be measured to an origin, your 0, 0, 0 point. In this case, it's going to be this point right here. So all of your dimensions need to relate back to that in some way, and I'll show you how to do that. So before we go any further, we want to save this file. If you notice up here, it says part 4. I didn't name that. That's just the default name for this. So I'm going to go up to the floppy disk. I'm going to hit the arrow next to it, and I'm going to do save as. So I'm going to click that there. I'm going to name this my last name, Homework 1. We actually already have a file named this, so I'm going to name it Homework 1A. Now, if you notice down here, save as type, if I hit that, there's a whole bunch of different ways to save this file. Almost all of these are totally useless for anything, okay? What you almost always want to do, at least in these first couple weeks, just leave it as the SolidWorks part. When you're naming these, please put your name in the file name somewhere. Otherwise, I get 50 homework 1 or assignment 1s, and I don't know whose is whose. So your last name is sufficient. Got to be in there somewhere. So I'm going to hit save. Oh, the last thing I want to mention, You need to know where you save your files. So what you can do, go to your desktop. I'm going to right click anywhere in here, new folder, and I'm going to say MFTS 120 homework. Double click that folder and we can just save the file in there. Hit save, and you want to remember where that location is. In the next video, I'll show you how to upload it to Blackboard. So let's get started with actually making a part. I'm going to go to the Sketch tab. I'm going to hit Sketch right here in the upper left. It has a little message, select a plane on which to create a sketch for the entity. I want to click on this front plane, okay? And it's going to get normal to it. If you notice, the whole view moved. Now it's a little crowded here, so I'm just going to click the eyeball to hide everything. Okay, so when you click the eyeball, when the eyeball is grayed out, you've hidden everything. When you unclick it, it's going to show anything that's selected in here. Hide everything is fine. This little red arrows here is our origin. If you notice, if I hover over the middle of it, I've got an orange dot. That is the origin for our sketch. It highlights over here. So I'm going to go up here to line. You need to click twice to make a line. So I'm going to click once on the origin. If you notice, I have a little yellow thing pop up. That means it's coincident. And I'm going to move the line up. Now, if you notice, when the line is vertical, you get a little yellow thing with a vertical line in it. That's called a relation. So if I click right here, I'm telling the computer, I don't care how long the line is, but it has to be vertical. And Solidworks will make sure that line stays vertical. So I'm going to left click. Now, I only clicked once. I can go ahead and make another line without doing anything else. I'm going to do the same thing. If you notice, these little yellow dotted lines indicate, horizontal and vertical to help you draw a nice square. So I'm going to do the same thing. Click. Now right here, I don't want a straight line because we want a little chamfer on this part. It doesn't matter if you click up here or down here, just don't let it snap to one of these yellow lines. So right here is fine. I'm going to go down. Now we've got to pay attention to two things. We want it to be level with our origin. So I'm going to make sure I'm vertical here. I'm going to slowly move down until I see another blue dotted line connected to the origin. I'm going to click, and now I can go right back to my origin. Okay. You notice how the part turns gray? That means it's a closed sketch, which is really, really important as we go along. If your sketch isn't gray, it means two of your lines, the endpoints, aren't touching. It can be a difficult problem to diagnose. At this point, I'd recommend just deleting everything and trying over again. Now, I want to bring your attention to these blue lines. A blue line means it's undefined or underdefined. It doesn't have enough information. If I left click on this blue line and move it up, I can freely move it around. This isn't good if you're sending parts out to get made or trying to make a drawing because they can just change for no reason. We want to lock down those lines with dimensions. So I'm going to go up here to Smart Dimension. I'm still in the sketch, but now I'm going to add dimensions. I'm going to click on this top line, left click. Then I'm going to left click on this bottom line. And then I'm going to move my dimension over here. Left click again. Now I'm going to enter in a dimension. If you notice it's in metric right now, we're going to fix that in a second. But I could go ahead and enter in 3 inches by typing 3IN. And it'll recognize it as inches. So it's going to convert it to metric. To fix that, to make it, regular imperial measurements, I'm going to exit Smart Dimension, exit the sketch. We're going to go up here to Options, the little gear wheel. I'm going to go to Document Properties. The first thing I'm going to do, right here in Overall Drafting Standard, I'm going to change this from ISO Modified to ANSI. Now, I'm going to go down here to Units. And I'm going to change from custom or whatever else it is to IPS, inch, pound, second. Click. And that's all we have to do. And this shows up a little big in my window. To get to the OK down here, I actually have to shrink this window to even get to this. You could also just hit enter. Now, to open the sketch back up, remember our eyeball is pressed right there, so we didn't see the sketch. Actually, what I'll do, I'm going to uncheck the eyeball and I'm going to turn those planes off. So now we can see our sketch. To open a sketch up again, and this is really important, I'm just going to click on it, right? You can right click or left click, doesn't really matter. And you're going to go right up here to edit sketch. And now we're back in the sketch. If you notice, the sketch icon is dark gray. It lets us know we're working on one sketch. You can only work on one sketch or one feature at a time. Okay, so it's important to know which one you're in. You'll eventually have multiple sketches and multiple features going on. So the next step, smart dimension, we're going to dimension the width. So I'm going to left click on this line, left click on this line, move the dimension down here. We're going to make that 4 inches. So since we changed the units, all I have to do is hit 4 and it's going to recognize it as inches. Now I'm going to uncheck smart dimension. If you notice in this top right corner, it doesn't really look like a chamfer. I'm just going to drag this point over here until it looks more like a chamfer. Now we want to apply an angle dimension. So go back into smart dimension. I want to select this line on the top and then this angled line. Okay. Now we can apply our angle dimension. It depends where you put it as to what angle you're going to get. In this case, we want this angle pulled out toward the right. So I'm going to click, I'm going to enter 30, and that's degrees. But our chamfer isn't fully defined. If you notice, it's blue. If I drag this, the chamfer can get bigger, right? We've got to lock down the other dimension opposite of the angle. So I'm going to go to smart dimension. I select this point. If you notice, the intersection of those two lines turns orange. I'm going to select this point. Now, again, it matters where you put the dimension. So see, if as I'm moving around, we get all these different dimensions. We want this one right here on top, and we want the dimension line to be horizontal. So I click, I'm going to enter 1.5 inches. So now they're all black lines. We've got, it's filled in with dark gray. This is a good sketch. I'm going to exit the sketch. Now we want to make a feature. So I'm going to go to the features tab. There's a whole bunch of different features. For the right now, we're going to be using extruded boss base, and later in the video, we'll do an extruded cut. So I click extruded boss base down here in the instructions. We're going to select an existing sketch to use this feature. So I can either click on the sketch, or up here, I can open, there's another feature tree, and I can select the sketch right here. So it's going to guess what we want. It's always wrong, so we've always got to enter something in here. The first thing we have going on is our end condition. In this video, we're going to be using blind and through all when we get to the extruded cut. So this is going to be blind. Let's make this part 2 inches deep. I'm going to enter it, type in 2, and then press enter. It shows us what the part's going to look like. And then if we wanted to, we could have the direction go a different way. But in this case, just leave it coming toward you on the screen. And that's all we have to do to make it a solid model. I'm going to hit green check, and we're almost there. What I'm going to do here is rename this feature. So just like you're renaming a file in Windows, I'm just going to click this, and eventually after a second or two, it'll open up. So we're going to name this rectangle. You can name it whatever you want. It really doesn't matter now. I mean, it does matter when you get like 200 features in a model. It helps to have them have names. Okay, so we want a hole going through this part. The way we're going to do that is with an extruded cut. So I'm going to go to sketch, hit sketch up here in the upper left. and we want to select a plane to sketch on. So in this case, let's select this plane right here, and I just left click. Now, we usually don't want to sketch an isometric view. What we're going to do is come up here to this view orientation box, hit the arrow below it, and now we can choose our views. So we want the front view, but as you scroll through here, you can select right, left, bottom, etc. And on front, it says the shortcut is Control 1. If you remember one shortcut, that's a pretty good one to remember. So I'm going to hit Control 1 on my keyboard, and that brings us into the front view of the part. So let's get into making the circle. I'm going to go up here to circle. There's two types of circle and perimeter circle. I don't think I've ever used perimeter circle, so stick with the first one. What we need for a circle are 2 points. The first one is the location of the center. The second one is the diameter. Don't pay attention to the number in the box that's going up and down right there, because we're going to add a dimension anyway, so that's just there for reference. So what I'm saying is don't try to get it, perfect. Say you're looking for 1.5, don't try to scroll. It really doesn't matter. So I got my circle. I'm going to hit green check or escape. Either one works. If you notice, the circle is blue, and I can move it around. If I grab the center point, I can move it around. If I grab the outside, I can make it bigger or smaller. We don't want that. We want the center point and the outside of the circle to be black, indicating it's fully defined. So how do we do that? Go to Smart Dimension. I'm going to dimension the outside diameter first. So I just click on the outside of the circle, pull my dimension over here, click again. And now I can enter in the dimension. So let's make it 1.5 inches, and I'm going to hit the green check, or you can hit enter. Now, of course, it's still not fully defined because we haven't located the center of the circle. So let's do that. I'm in Smart Dimension. I'm going to click the center of the circle, and then I'm going to click the edge of the part. Now, watch out. Don't ever click. If you notice right here, I could click the middle of this line. That'll do something weird that you don't want. So whenever you're selecting a line, try to select, a third of it down here or up here, but not exactly in the middle. Okay. So I'm going to click right here, pull the dimension down here. I'm going to make this 1.5 inches as well. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the other direction. So center of circle to the bottom of the part, pull the dimension over here, and I'm going to make this 1.5. Now I can hit enter or click the green check, hit enter, whatever works. Make the dimensions look a little bit nicer. And we're all set to go here. So I'm going to exit the sketch. I'm going to go to the Features tab. I'm going to Extruded Cut instead of Extruded Boss Base because we want to remove material. Click. I'm going to select the sketch. Just wait till the circle highlights. And now I'm going to hold down the middle mouse wheel so I can pan over and move the part. You have to do this so you can see how far the extruded cut is going to go. In this case, it does go all the way through the part, but we don't want to leave it blind. Okay, so what can happen here is if you leave this blind and say you make the part thicker, now it's going to be a blind hole, even though it's a through hole now. So if you want it to be a through hole, which we do, I'm going to go to End Condition and select Through All. Okay, so no matter how thick the part is, the hole is always going to go all the way through it. That's all we got to do. I'm going to hit green check. So I'm going to rename the part. I'm going to left click. And then I'm going to name this hole. Okay, hit enter. And we're all good to go. And that's all we're going to do for this part. So just be sure to save it just like we did before. Since we already gave it a name, all we've got to do is hit the floppy disk up here or hit Control S on your keyboard. In the next video, I'll show you how to submit this to Blackboard.